Hey, welcome students. So I'm about to hit send to this email to you and your parents about how to get settled in to some of the extra features that we'll be using in the class this year. For many of you who've had the Aristotle Leads the Way, this will be a review. For those of you who haven't, just realize that only about a third of the students in the class have had the Aristotle class before, so you are not alone. That more people are taking this class for the first, their first time in any of these science classes, and it will work just fine. I may emphasize some things that we talked about in the Aristotle class, but please take that as an invitation. If you're interested in something that I brought up that was in the Aristotle class, and I reminded my Aristotle students that it was in their class, and you're like, oh, I'd like to know more about that, ask me about it in an email, or we'll talk about the inbox messages or better. But I am happy to meet with you one-on-one and go over a particular section or a particular story, or even give you some fun homework or extra science assignments if you have an interest in something that was in that book but you didn't get a chance to take it. So the first thing we should talk about is just to make sure that there are two things that I hope this was clear in what I said out there. So there is a textbook. Both of these are available online. There's a textbook and a workbook. And we will be using the workbook a lot more. If you're in the previous class, we'll be using the workbook a lot more this year than we used it in the previous class. And we'll talk more about that. But both of these are available online. If you have any trouble acquiring either of them, let me know. Joy Hakim's books are not doing so well in their English language, but they are being reprinted like crazy around the world. So actually, Johns Hopkins and Smithsonian are both looking at reprinting a different version in the U.S. But I can work with her and with the publisher to get you any of these that you aren't able to get your hands on. Okay, there are 3 different accounts that you need to set up, and I'm very sorry for that. It's a little bit of a hassle, but once you set them up once, if you just set those things where it says, do you want your browser to keep a hold of your password, just select yes for your students if you can, so that they don't have to remember or be confused about those things. And please try to set up bookmarks to these things in your browser, someplace easy for your students to see. The first is Electa. You should have received an email with your Electa username and password. That's how we will log in to the classroom, and that is the thing that Mrs. Johnson and I will be following up individually with each student to make sure that that is working okay. The next is MyHaiku. It's also called PowerSchool Learning because they got bought by PowerSchool Learning, but I will walk you through setting that up. Well, let's do that right now. So in the welcome homework, or in the welcome email, there's this link here, and it's got 2 parts. So there's the link, and so you just do that. And I'm going to open an incognito window because I set it so that it will keep all my passwords and just log me in automatically when I go there. So you don't have to set up an incognito window if it's your first time. So if you set up the sign up, you can also do this if you've already signed in, and it will give you an opportunity to put the invitation code in. The invitation code is that second little bit right here that's in bold. So just put that in. Okay, and if you already have an account, it's just going to pop you through to that and it'll be all set up. If you haven't set up an account yet, please make sure your student has an account set up first. You do need 2 different emails for this. If your student has an email address, it is nice to have the student's account go directly to their email address, because at the end of each day, if I've updated something, made a correction or whatever, there'll be a digest that goes through and gives the kids all the changes on the whole page in one summary thing that they can click through. And if that goes directly to them, it's easier for them to find any changes that have been made on the page or any new updates. Most parents don't use their parent account, they just use the student one, but it is available if you have a second email, and then you can log in without having to ask your student anything and check up on how they're doing. Okay, so that should get you into our PowerSchool Learning page, and there is a lot of stuff. There's a good reason for using our PowerSchool Learning page, and that's where I can put all the extra resources, quick links, sort of thing. We've been working on it quite a bit so that the homeworks are more preloaded than they have been a lot in my classes before. That's why we have an extra teacher to help me get all these things better organized. So for the fall semester, each So we have a unit, and we have not, this will be done by the time you get here for next unit, but in addition to a unit summary of what are we doing in this whole unit, the supplies for the homework in this unit will be listed. You know, they're commonly available supplies, but it can be a hassle if you have to suddenly make a run to a hardware store or something to get a supply. There will be a couple of times during the year when I will offer to send you guys supply packets, and particularly when we hit circuits and electronics, it's just easier for me, and that is totally free. You just have to send me a snail mail address, and Heather and I will get you a little packet of, you know, the right kind of wire, the right kind of LED, and that sort of thing. Okay, and the reading for the unit should be posted there. There are assignments in the class, and there will be various things. I'll talk about grading in a second, but how you find the assignments is kind of interesting. The calendar gives you one view. And so the calendar, which needs to be a bit cleaned up, we've been working on it this summer and it's not yet quite ready for where we are. But you'll see here's a link to our homework 0, which is due September 1st. It's just, this one is just an extra credit thing to make sure we can see what you're doing and you can see what we're responding to. The calendar will also have links to office hours, which will be on our Electa system. It'll be a different link than our class. It will also have links to our Electa classroom. I don't have those links put in yet, but basically all your student has to do once you have that all set up is they can always come to the calendar, click on that Electa Live link, and go directly to the classroom and not worry about, you know, getting into the wrong classroom or anything like that. There'll be office hours. In addition to the office hours, there'll be events like, hey, the Cassini probe and things like that. So the calendar is one good way. The other way to see the homework is the homework will be listed by each day. Come on. Oh, my mouse is not responding. So if we go to this week's homework, I'm probably going to unpublish everything but next week's thing. So the week when the homework is assigned, it will be there in context, you know, sort of have that assigned. The first homeworks are not yet ready. Don't go ahead, don't jump in and do the homeworks yet. They will be ready by next week. Okay. So that's the other way to use it. And then the third way to find homework is if you go under activities, homework is under assignments. Assessments are tests. Tests are extra credit. They're designed as a tool for the student, not as, you know, something addition they have to do. Discussions, polls, anything up here is listed under activities. Grades, the grading policy is if you tried the homework, if you attempted it, you will get basically a 10-point credit. I love to give extra points for extra diligence and really focusing on that. So the main grade you're getting from me is more of a check. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson will be doing the grading for the workbook pages and other daily science exercises. So you'll be hearing from Mrs. Johnson and myself. So we give 10 points as basically a check. You turn the homework in, and then your real feedback is the comments and things that we send along with that. If you need a different grading approach for your particular situation, let us know. Okay, so let me go back and make sure I'm covering everything. Oh, hypothesis. Okay, there'll be 2 of these 10-minute videos. In this first one, let me finish covering hypothesis. So there will be a link so that you can log into Hypothesis. And when you click on it, this is where you'll go. It is free. It's called webhypothesis.is, and you'll create a login. And again, just make sure that it is selected to know your password so your student doesn't get confused about it. Now, what they will be doing is a lot of times we're going to go and look at translations of the original works. So we have a library of original sources. And so far we only have Copernicus and Da Vinci in there, but some of our reading in the very first unit, oh, my mouse is really struggling. One of the things we have in the very first unit is to read On the Revolution of the Heavenly Spheres, and if you do Latin, I have the Latin there just for fun, and also because in honor of Justin. Okay, when you click on this, and I'll continue this in the next video, when we click on it, it takes you to a hypothesis version of this. And I'll show you why that's important in the next video. See you soon.